Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math. Eh? What am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that Canada has new movies. 2 of them, in fact. And we finally get to talk about some box office numbers. They're very tiny, but we're at least off to the races as the Hollywood box office finally begins to stir, with the United States coming up very quickly. Although we will talk about the rate at which the United States is opening up, Canada, of course, has a much better situation. Now, as many of you have long suspected, Canada's box office is indeed usually rolled into the overall domestic box office. So I had to do some digging to get us some comparison numbers for when we're just talking about Canada. This is your time to shine, Canada! You finally have your own box office report! So here are the top 10 grossing films in Canada for 2019, just to give you some perspective. But what about opening weekends? Very difficult to find this information. I was able to find the biggest opening weekend ever for Canada, and what do you know? It's Avengers Endgame with 28.5 million, which beat out the previous number one, Avengers Infinity War, at 19.7 million. Now, for comparison, again, the overall domestic openings, which includes Canada, by the way, for those 2 movies, is 357.1 for Endgame and 257.6 for Infinity War, which, what do you know, are the number 1 and 2 openings of all time for the overall domestic as well. So in both cases, Canada accounted for about 8%. A little under 8%, but I'm going to generously round it up to 8%. The trades are, well, actually, the bigger this number is, the bigger the percentage of Canada for the domestic box office, as you're about to see, the worse it is for what it means for overall domestic numbers. So at the 8% number, let's take a look at what SpongeBob and Unhinged did. So SpongeBob and Unhinged opened in the Great North, the Great White North. SpongeBob did 900,000. Oh my, don't worry, all right, 900,000. And Unhinged did $582,000. Neither could crack $1 million. But by going by the 8%, again, that would mean that domestically, SpongeBob would have opened with 11.2 million overall and Unhinged at 7.2. Now, again, for comparison's sake, we got to know what we're looking at here. The last SpongeBob movie in 2015 opened at 55.3. That's amazing. SpongeBob, very strong brand. And the last small Russell Crowe movie, The Nice Guys, opened at 11.2. But that's because it co-starred Ryan Gosling, who always opens at 11 million. It's fascinating. But anyway, the trades are saying that Canada can go anywhere from 8 to 10%. And that would unfortunately mean that SpongeBob would have opened at just 9 million domestically overall and Unhinged at 5.8. So obviously, these studios will be hoping that 8% number is more correct. But there are other factors which we're going to go over. But I have to say, no matter what, this is a darn good sign for Unhinged. The first release from a new distributor starring an actor who hasn't been a star in quite some time. So for them, 7.2 million would be fantastic. And 5.8, well, that would still be even pretty good. And again, as we've discussed, Unhinged perfectly targets the demo that, let's be honest, doesn't want to wear a mask and doesn't want to be infringed in any way and is the most likely to be willing to go to a movie theater right now. Rambo Last Blood is a cut from the same cloth, and that opened at 18.8 million last year, but of course that also was an entry in the Rambo franchise. But I think Unhinged, based on these numbers, could do some serious business when it opens in the US this coming weekend, particularly in the middle of the country, where most theaters are open. But as for SpongeBob, 11.2 is way too low for that type of movie. And 9 million, that would be a disaster of a debut. Like we saw in China with Sonic the Hedgehog, it does seem that families are the most reluctant to head to the multiplex right now. Further evidence that Disney made the right decision to put Mulan on Disney Plus instead of in theaters. Bottom line, though, there does seem to be some life at the box office, but we'll really know what we're working with once New Mutants and then Tenet hit theaters. Hollywood and NATO, the National Association of Theater Owners, that every time I say it, it's ridiculous that that's their acronym. But they have just mere weeks to get the biggest movie-going states back online. Let's see if they can do it. I'm talking New York, New Jersey, and California. That will make all the difference as Toronto and Vancouver theaters are open right now. Also, Canada is doing much better with coronavirus than the United States is. On Saturday, just yesterday, Canada reported only 237 new cases for the entire country, whereas in the United States, we had 55,348 new cases on Saturday. Sure, we have a much bigger population, but that's bad. Get it together, America! We look bad in front of the rest of the world, and we can't have new movies. But you can stream. Let's take a look at what people were watching this week. On iTunes, The Tax Collector, despite being hated by pretty much everyone who watches it, held on to the number one spot. And the trades are reporting it's done about 5 million on PVOD, premium video on demand, in its first 8 days, but just 634,000 in theaters, by the way, which shows the damage done by major cities in the U.S. being offline theatrically. Because you would think, based on what Unhinged did in Canada, that Tax Collector would be doing better. So there clearly, there's the 8 and 10%, but then there's also other factors at play, as which theaters are open, where do people feel more comfortable, etc. And viewers continue to get creative with their rentals. Sputnik from Russia is number 4. I have to say, though, Russia makes some pretty good action movies. And that's why Hollywood loves to make action movies. They don't have a lot of talking. So it's okay if, they're dubbed or if they're in a different language. It's mostly about the spectacle. So Sputnik shot to number 4, while The Silencing, starring Jamie Lannister, is at number 8. And for a minute, I thought I was looking at the Netflix top 10 with that fantastic fungi documentary at number 10. And speaking of Netflix, another original movie with a big Hollywood star, this time Project Power with Jamie Foxx, opened at number 1, with The Legend of Korra right behind it. That should encourage Netflix to patch things up with the Avatar creators, who very publicly quit the upcoming live-action adaptation on Wednesday. I'd be like, you need to fix that. If it wasn't obviously already apparent. And The Lost Husband is Lifetime and Hallmark channeling it up on Netflix. It's doing better than The Umbrella Academy. that is a slow, exciting burn. Netflix, expect them to start making more movies like that. They've made some in the past, but they hit the nail on the head with, I think, not just, the middle America setting. I think they had just the right level of talent. They're big enough names to make people feel that, it was worth their time. I think they might have cracked the Lifetime Hallmark movie formula over at Netflix. But The Umbrella Academy still is in the top 5. Netflix, it's obvious. Netflix is running like a well-oiled machine. Now, over on Disney Plus, which of course is about to undergo a major transformation, while I believe there's another transformation on the horizon, and Bob Chapek has said they will be making a big streaming presentation, sometime this fall. But I think they're going to be announcing that a Fox section is going to debut on Disney Plus, because the case for it grows stronger every week. The Greatest Showman just debuted, and it joined The Simpsons at the top of trending. The 2 top trending things on Disney Plus are from Fox. By the way, The Greatest Showman is a fantastic movie with an even better soundtrack. Although, please note, it's not at all historically accurate. But it doesn't keep it from being amazing. I still think that should be a musical, although Broadway is currently closed for quite some time. 2021 at the earliest. Ant-Man and the Wasp also finally hit Disney Plus, but could only get to number 8. It had a small success factor. Ba-dum-bum-bum. By the way, speaking of embarrassing, Zombies 2, which also debuted on the streaming service, beat it out. Zombies 2! Although at least Zombies 2 isn't Magic Camp, or Ant-Man and the Wasp isn't Magic Camp, because that also debuted on the streaming service and couldn't even make it into the top 10. And wow, Moana continues to be such a juggernaut. Disney should really, I would look at this if I were a Disney executive and I'd say maybe we should make Moana too. And Hamilton also continues to do very strong business on Disney Plus. So it seems that Lin-Manuel Miranda might actually work out for Disney after all, at least at the streaming service level. As for this week, we're going to go over what you can stream and also what you can see in theaters. So, depending on whether or not they're open in your area. And I'm curious, will theaters be open for you this coming weekend? So tonight, Lovecraft Country debuts on HBO and HBO Max. And while I did not care for the series after tonight's episode is amazing. You're not going to want to miss it. I highly recommend that you tune in. And then, you know what? You can decide if you want to keep watching. But tonight's episode is not to be missed. Then on Friday, Disney Plus debuts the one and only Ivan at no additional cost. Enjoy these simpler times while they last. While Netflix debuts the first half of the new season of Lucifer, the first 8 episodes, and then the other 8 will debut at a date to be determined. And Tesla, starring Ethan Hawke, although it's like it's a little bit of a weird movie. It's like told out of order and stuff like that. It's experimental, like Tesla himself. Although the Current War, which is also available, features Tesla, and I enjoyed that movie quite a bit. But also, if you want to watch this one, it'll be available on PVOD on Friday. Then in theaters, again, if they're open in your area, you'll be able to see Unhinged and Cutthroat City, distributed by Wellgo USA. It's directed by RZA, and it stars Shameik Moore, who's the voice of Miles Morales, Terrence Howard, Wesley Snipes, and what do you know, in a small role, Ethan Hawke, giving him, making it a double feature for him this weekend. So what have you been watching, and what do you plan to watch this coming weekend? Will you be headed to theaters? I'm very curious to hear what you plan to do. Movie Math, by the way, next week will be on Monday because, of course, it's DC Fandom on Saturday, and they're going to drop so much news and so many exciting reveals that I'll be taking the 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, to cover all of that. All right, again, share those stats down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.